For years and years, Meryl Streep was like Hollywood royalty that nobody could touch. She was always so polite, so professional, always stayed out of drama. She never messed up, never let anyone see if she was mad at someone. But now, at age 76, something changed. She finally opened up. In a really rare interview, Streep admitted that there were some actors she didn't just kind of dislike. No, she actually hated them. And when she started naming names, people's jaws dropped everywhere. These weren't small-time nobodies or minor actors. These were huge legends, some of the biggest names in movies. The exact people that everyone watching at home thought she totally respected and admired. What made it even more shocking was how she talked about them one by one, being super honest and not holding back at all. And once you hear why she couldn't stand them, you'll never be able to watch those movies the same way again. Trust me on that. Kevin Kline might have seemed like the perfect guy to act opposite Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice back in 1982, but let me tell you, behind the scenes their relationship was a total mess. When you watch them on screen, their chemistry looks amazing, like they really connected and understood each other. But when the cameras weren't rolling inside those rehearsal rooms, things were seriously tense and uncomfortable. Meryl spent literal months getting ready for this role, completely throwing herself into it. She listened to real Holocaust survivor stories for hours and hours. She learned how to speak with both Polish and German accents perfectly, and she figured out every tiny detail about Sophie's damaged mind and broken heart. Kevin Kline, though? He was totally different. He liked to just go with his gut feeling and make things up as he went along. He wanted scenes to feel natural and free without planning every little thing. That difference between them, instead of making the film better, turned into a huge problem and basically became a war zone. People who worked on the crew remember this one really tense rehearsal where Kline actually questioned the way she was doing the accent. He asked her something like, "Are you really sure the people watching are going to care more about how perfect your vowel sounds are than what the character is actually feeling inside?" For Streep, that wasn't just some casual comment or small observation. It felt like he was attacking the entire way she worked and everything she believed in. To her, Sophie's broken way of speaking was a huge part of her trauma. It showed her displacement from her home. It showed how she survived. So when he dismissed it like that, he was basically dismissing Sophie's whole truth and reality. After the movie finished filming, Kline made it even worse. In interviews with reporters, he called the way she worked academic, like she was just studying in a classroom. Maybe he thought it was no big deal. But to Streep, it was a huge insult. She had put her whole heart and soul into this role. And to hear someone reduce all that work to some cold, emotionless academic exercise really hurt her deeply. They never, ever worked together on screen again after that. Even when they both showed up at the same award shows over the years, Meryl kept her distance from him. Sure, she was polite and cordial on the surface, but there was this coldness underneath. And so that's why Kevin Kline gets the first spot on this shocking list. Pretty surprising, right? The same man who helped her give one of her greatest performances ever is also one of the people she promised herself she'd never work with again. If Kevin Kline was like a wound that just never properly healed, then Jeremy Irons was like a scar that kept burning and hurting even worse as time went on. When the public heard they might work together, everyone got excited and thought it would be amazing. Two absolute masters of acting, both trained in classical theater, both respected and admired for their incredible skills and artistry. But once the cameras stopped rolling and they finished shooting, their so-called collaboration showed a really bitter and ugly truth. They genuinely despised each other's entire approach and vision of what acting should be. Irons acted in his roles like he was creating polished marble statues, everything controlled and elegant and carefully held back and restrained. Streep, on the other hand, she tore into her characters with raw, messy empathy, building them up from nothing with real history, real trauma, real lived human experience. What seemed like just a professional difference in style very quickly turned sour and became actual disdain and contempt. One rehearsal reportedly got super icy and uncomfortable when Irons dismissed all her careful, detailed accent work as just technical showmanship. like she was just showing off. For Streep, this wasn't some small insult she could brush off. Like she once said herself, an accent isn't just performance, it's biography. It's someone's life story. So to suggest otherwise, to imply it didn't matter, was in her eyes basically an act of betrayal to all the real people whose lives she was trying to honor and represent through her work. From that exact moment forward, the line was drawn between them. He thought she was being self-indulgent and overdoing everything. She thought he was emotionally hollow and empty inside. Their scenes together became like duels or battles, with his cold detachment fighting against her wounded fire and passion. The tension got so thick and heavy that people working on the crew would whisper to each other that they had never seen two actors standing so physically close to each other and yet feeling so incredibly far apart emotionally. So when we talk about Jeremy Irons, he doesn't just land in second place on this list. He represents that specific moment when admiration and respect turned sour and became contempt and disgust. The real tragedy here is that their combined talent could have created something historic and legendary. Instead, all it made was silence and distance. Nobody expected a light romantic comedy to turn into an actual battlefield, but that's exactly what happened. When Meryl Streep stood across from Alec Baldwin on the set of It's Complicated, sparks didn't just fly in a good way. They exploded in a bad way. What the audience saw later when the movie came out, all that witty banter and chemistry, was actually two actors locked in a silent war, fighting over who got to control every single scene. Nancy Meyers, who directed the film, thought that Baldwin's improvisational charm and natural ability to make things up would nicely balance out Streep's precision and careful planning. Instead, it turned into her absolute worst nightmare. While Streep was carefully analyzing and dissecting every single motivation of her character Jane Adler with surgical care and attention, Baldwin was tearing through takes like a total wrecking ball, changing the words of lines, throwing in random jokes, rewriting the rhythm and timing without any warning at all. Streep believed this chaos was destroying the emotional backbone and heart of the entire story. She kept insisting, getting more and more frustrated after one particularly ruined rehearsal. Comedy has to be grounded in truth. It has to come from something real. Baldwin, though, he believed that real truth could only be discovered and found in the heat of the moment, right there as it happened. Neither one of them would bend or compromise, and the tension turned every single scene they shared together into a tug-of-war, a constant battle. Even today, right now, Baldwin just brushes off the tension with jokes and acts like it was no big deal. But Streep has never softened her stance, not even a little bit. Their on-screen flirtation and romance fooled all the audiences watching, but the people who were actually there on set knew the real truth. Every laugh and smile was hiding clenched teeth underneath. Meryl Streep never made a single film with Jack Nicholson, and let me tell you, that was absolutely no accident or coincidence. From the very beginning of both their careers, she rejected every single attempt to pair them up in a movie. She was totally convinced that his style of acting represented everything she absolutely despised and hated. From the late 1970s and going forward, movie studios were literally begging to put them together in heavy, serious dramas. They were convinced that two acting giants like them in one film would guarantee massive box office gold and tons of money. But after they had some preliminary meetings to discuss it, everything just collapsed and fell apart. Why did that happen? Because Streep viewed acting as a moral duty, like something sacred and important, while Nicholson treated it like swagger and instinct, just going with whatever felt right. She buried herself deep in research and dialect work for months, while he actually admitted in interviews with reporters, and I'm quoting him here, "Preparation? That's intellectual masturbation." That quote stung her like a sharp knife cutting deep. For Streep, authenticity and being real was absolutely sacred and holy. To hear Nicholson mock it so publicly and casually like that made collaboration completely impossible in her mind. A casting director named Juliet Taylor once said really bluntly and directly, "Jack represents everything Meryl thinks is wrong with stardom and being a celebrity." And from then on, from that point forward, Streep quietly vetoed and blocked any project that included his name anywhere in it. At award shows and ceremonies, the two of them would exchange only quick nods. That's it. At fancy galas and parties, their body language would freeze the air around them, making everything awkward. Hollywood definitely noticed that two of its brightest and biggest stars never shared a screen together. Not because they didn't have opportunity. They had plenty. But because contempt and hatred had built a wall between them that was way too high to ever climb over. For Meryl Streep, Gwyneth Paltrow wasn't just another actress competing in Hollywood. She was the walking, breathing embodiment of everything wrong with modern Hollywood culture. Privilege, branding, marketing, and stardom, without having to really grind and struggle for it. When Paltrow shot to fame in the 1990s, it looked totally effortless and easy. She was the daughter of Blythe Danner and Bruce Paltrow, both connected in the industry. So she walked through doors that other people could only dream about getting close to. Critics praised her elegance and natural charm, but Streep was quietly seething in private. For decades and decades, Streep had treated acting like sacred labor, something holy and important. She spent months doing research, totally immersing herself in roles, completely disappearing into characters. So watching Paltrow climb to the very top mainly on her famous name and good timing felt to her like a personal insult to the craft itself and everything it should stand for. The real breaking point, the moment that made it worst, came in 1999. Paltrow won the Best Actress Oscar for Shakespeare in Love. Streep had delivered an incredible performance in One True Thing that exact same year, one of her most demanding and challenging roles, and she lost the award. Publicly, in front of cameras, she smiled and clapped. But privately, behind closed doors, friends say she described that year's Oscar race as basically a marketing contest, dressed up as a legitimate award. She never directly named Gwyneth out loud, but the target was crystal clear, and Streep's silence on the matter spoke volumes. When asked in interviews about rising young actresses coming up, she would praise people like Cate Blanchett, Amy Adams, and Jessica Chastain, all performers who were known for rigorous preparation and hard work. But never Paltrow. Never once. Industry insiders definitely noticed the coldness between them at award shows over the years. Short, quick smiles, brief nods, absolutely no warmth or friendliness. Even years and years later, nothing changed between them. While Paltrow built a huge lifestyle empire with her Goop brand, Streep kept her distance, treating her not as a rival or competitor, but as a cautionary tale, a warning story. One woman stood for legacy and lasting impact, the other for celebrity culture and fame. And between them was a gulf and distance that was way too wide to ever cross. The moment that defined Meryl Streep's hatred for Dustin Hoffman happened right there in front of the cameras. But it was never, ever in the script. During the filming of Kramer vs. Kramer back in 1979, Hoffman actually slapped her across the face without any warning at all. It wasn't acting or playing a character. It was humiliation disguised as spontaneity and being in the moment. And Streep never, ever forgot it. For her, acting was completely about trust between actors. Every gesture, every pause, every exchange had to be built together with mutual respect. Hoffman, who was deeply steeped in method acting techniques, believed in chaos and unpredictability. He blurred the line between being the character and being himself in reality, throwing unscripted actions into scenes because he was searching for authenticity and truth. But for Streep, being blindsided and caught off guard like that wasn't authenticity at all. It was abuse, plain and simple. She later admitted publicly, and these are her words, "That was overstepping. That was not acting." Those words carried the heavy weight of a wound that had never healed properly, even after all that time. On set during filming, director Robert Benton became more like a referee than a leader, constantly trying to balance Hoffman's wild improvisations against Streep's precision and planning. Their divorce drama on screen felt painfully real and raw, and that wasn't just because of the script being well written. It was because both actors were channeling their genuine resentment and anger toward each other into every courtroom line and every broken glance and expression. People working on the crew would whisper to each other that some of the most powerful moments in the film weren't even performances. They were actual outbursts of real emotion. The film swept the Oscars and won big. Hoffman took home the Best Actor award. Streep won Best Supporting Actress, and the whole world saw absolute brilliance on screen. But Streep walked away from that experience with deep scars that never faded. She has never worked with Hoffman again, not even once. And even in later interviews years and years afterward, she referred to the experience as professionally productive, but personally intolerable. That says everything. 6 actors, 6 grudges and feuds, and not a single one of them ever forgiven or resolved. Which story shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold Hollywood rivalries and secrets.